If your makeup never turns out smooth like the ones you see online, I am about to change that. Hi, I'm Dobra Noel, your online makeup coach. And you know, when I say details, I am going into details. If this is your first time joining me, yes, when Dobra says she's doing a detailed tutorial, you better just grab a seat. And yes, because this tutorial is meant to be very beginner friendly, I'm going to start with every little detail that goes into it. First of all, I clean the face with Blossom My Slow Water to like erase all the dirt. After cleansing the skin, the natural barrier of the skin can be disturbed, so we're going with toner to rebalance the skin so you can easily absorb the moisturizer and the primer into the skin before the makeup. And here I'm going in with Cosmetics toner. I further restored the moisture of the face with an hydrating mist. Serums tend to penetrate deep into the skin than moisturizers, and when the skin is properly hydrated, foundation blends easier and doesn't cling to dry spots. And with this particular serum that has an oil base, it is very wonderful to work with. Basically, every framework of skin prep is just based off of hydrating the skin, and of course, moisturizer doesn't do any less. In fact, it prevents your face from clinging to dry skin and less flakiness when you properly moisturize. And no, I don't mean little moisturizer, people. I mean properly moisturize that face. And one thing with this particular moisturizer, forgive me, I cannot pronunciate the name, is you let it dry down itself for it to sit properly into the skin on its own. That gives a better function of the moisturizer. Yeah, obviously I skipped into the video, but yes, I did let it dry down before I went over with my hand to massage it into the skin properly. Other than primers actually lasting, making the makeup last longer, it also prevents your makeup from absorbing directly into your skin, gives an overall finer finish, and blurs your face, like smoothens it for your base, and as well hydrates your face. This video I'm using the Dana Samaris blurring balm, and I would take this opportunity to say I am sorry to the Dana Samaris team for doubts on your primer, because the first time I used it I did not like the outcome, but like when I let it sit for like the longest and I went in with my product, it came out really lovely. And yes, I am sorry once again. For the foundation, I used the L'Oreal Beauty. She has a very flawless skin, and yes, I did go darker than it appeared, but when I tested this on her neck, it just disappeared. We didn't see a trace of it being darker or brighter, so I just decided to stick with it, because considering the last time I did her makeup, I used a shade that was according to her skin color and then ended up having a brighter finish at the end of the day. So yes, I just worked with that because figured out that her skin basically gave off really bright, but somehow the complexion is somehow dimmer, so I just stuck to the fact that it was slightly darker, a bit bronzy, but yeah, it got the job done. because our skin didn't need any color correction so much and our face was smooth. I went in with the L'Oreal Beauty, which has a very lightweight and is buildable. And yes, when you're doing your makeup, one thing you do not want to be overly too much is your foundation. You do not want to pack foundation into the face. And for somebody that has a youthful skin, you can not just tap, especially when you're using the brush, but you can like twirl the brush to walk the product into the skin properly. If she was 30, above 30, or probably wrinkly, this would make the makeup trap into the ring. But for somebody that is youthful, when you pick up your brush, you can as well just rub it into the face, not just tap it. And for the nose area and the forehead, I recommend using the leftover foundation on the brush, because one thing with the nose is it gets really oily. Most people don't have oily skin per se, but they have combination skins and their nose get really oily. So in order to prevent that, what I particularly do is I just go in with the leftover of the foundation on the brush for the nose. That way the nose gets to stay with less foundation, because guess what, the more the foundation on the face, the more oily the face is going to be. So if you have a dry face, you get away with it, but if you don't have a dry face, you have no chances of getting away with using too much foundation on the face. Over time, people have tend to use full coverage concealers to avoid using color correctors, but I'm so sorry, I'm not still used to switching because I still love my color corrector. One thing about makeup that I've come to understand is we're all still growing and learning the art of makeup day in and day out. Recently, I was caught to be using so much concealer, which created massive ridge of breakage under my eyes and everything. So now I stick to placements. And yes, I used to say I do not let my concealer dry, but now I let my concealer dry. So this is a quick reminder: makeup is a good process. We're all learning every single day by the day. So for my concealer placements, after placing my concealer down, the next thing I do is use another brush to fluff out the sides that are going to create hash lines into the foundation first before I proceed to doing my contour and the rest of my face. Reason I do this is because the main reason I don't let concealer dry down is because some concealers, when they dry down, the line in which they dry down are going to stay that way. When I do this, I prevent those lines from actually staying that way. Then for bronzing, I went in with a Cuff Case palette to add warmth to her face. At first, I actually dipped it in and I did not squash it in my hand. And you see that pile of bronzer when I checked the wrong placement? I had to go back in with a foundation brush to correct that. I guess I skipped that part of the video. I didn't know that. So I went in for her forehead as well. One thing I did when I was applying a foundation is I kind of skipped the hairline a bit. I didn't really apply foundation there. So that helps me blend it into a hairline perfectly to have that seamless transition from foundation, concealer down to the hairline. That is very important. And if you notice, one thing I'm doing is I am not making placements with the bronzer. I just apply it to the brush, clean off a bit in my hand, and then go straight into the face. So I don't have hash lines, just like the ones that the concealer would have created that I told you I took out. Now for the blush to add a definition to the face, I did start the blush from like the center of her eyelid all the way down to the up. I was supposed to do it left, but then she's so cute. I just wanted to like enhance her natural beauty. One thing I love to do when I'm doing a client's makeup or anybody's makeup is I like to maintain you while doing the makeup. I hate that situation whereby you feel caked up, you look completely different. I don't really like it. So if you notice all of my makeup, the client is always going to look like them, but just like a finer version of them. That is my aim as a makeup artist. It's not to completely change you, but to enhance your beauty naturally. Now for the nose contouring, this is one thing that I struggled with a lot in the past. So I feel like I should talk more about it. Since the goal is to enhance her natural features, I just went in with a nose bridge. The structure in which a nose bridge is already, and just went in with my cuff case on the same color that I use for the bronzing. Now if I wanted to go slightly lighter, I would, but like what I did mostly was for the inner corners, the sides that are closest to the eye, I used a deeper color, and then when I brought it downwards to the nose bridge, I kind of brightened it up a bit with a bit of other products that was left over from the concealer, just mixing it. So for the bridge, the center side of the nose, it wasn't as dark as the corner, which is like closer to the eyebrows. And then I picked up my beauty blender and blend out the concealer because I'd already removed the hash lines. It wasn't really so sharp around the edges anymore. And I could always go in back in with the brush that I use to apply the products because it has like leftover products, which also has dried down because it's been sitting there for a minute, just as long as the concealer in the eye has been sitting there. So anywhere that I feel like had like a bit of a patch that needed concealer fixing, I would just normally just go in with that brush to tap over it and then continue blending with my beauty blender. So I just blend according to the placement. Honestly, this process is just a slightly slow but careful blending because one thing with when you have too much pressure on your beauty blender on the skin is it is still going to take off the product. So your pressure should be light-handed. Just like I explained before, I went in back with the leftover on the the brush that I used earlier to tap over the face to blend it out a bit. So it's just a blend procedure from here on out for the entire face. If there is one information that I would leave you with when it comes to your makeup blending at this point of this video is blend until you're satisfied. Now my makeup takes a long time to finish actually. I spent 2 hours on the face and at first I used to beat myself up that I need to be faster, I need to do better. Sometimes I do in 30 minutes, but if I want to properly beat a face, I spend 2 hours. Now that's because I am so hell bent on blending the entire face. I've heard lots and lots of times because I've not been able to get a good better camera for my videos that my makeup always looks way better in real life than on camera. The goal is for you to look like a natural beauty filter, not for you to look worse when you see it in person and then look better because it was filtered on the camera. But no, my own personal goal when it comes to makeup is when someone sees the client in real life, they're going to be like, how is he finer? And that is what I've always achieved. That's why I blend my heart out whenever I'm blending my face to make sure that I don't create any lines that I have to struggle with. That is the aim of Dobra. After placing my brightening concealer, I sprayed on the face to maintain moisture and as well make it easy to blend and to sit the current product into the face properly. Then I went back in to blend a little bit. After blending the brightening concealer, at least I let it sit for a minute so it can dry down a little bit, just like the first set of concealer I used. While letting it sit, I prepped my angle puff with enough product to set the face, just a very little amount of setting powder at this point to set the face, and I sprayed on the setting powder on the angle puff as well, just to make sure that it's not going to give me like harsh lines. It's just going to be dewy when I place it on the concealer so it doesn't come off too dry. This one thing should be gate kept, I promise you. What I do is I use the setting powder all over the face at this stage. After setting everywhere I have concealer, I also use setting powder to go over the face. Now, with somebody that has oily skin, this is a pro tip. Like, it's going to help control oil because setting powder actually helps control oil. It's going to help control oil massively in the face during the day, and it's also going to make the face extra smooth, smoother than the regular foundation powder could ever give you. So yeah, you're welcome, because this is a tip that I promise you I wanted to get keep so badly, because the moment I started this, it took my skin work to a different level of smoothness. Like, it looks edible, like brings me some butter, like just bring me some butter. That's how good this tip took my skin work to. So you're welcome. For powder bronzer, I'm just going to pick up my powder palette and apply bronzer everywhere I applied my liquid bronzer on. Well, powder palettes are easy because that way you get multiple colors of powders and also have a powder for your bronzing, your highlighting, and your whole face at once. And it usually comes less expensive than having to have one powder for each reason. So I'm just going to contour, go back and bronze my nose, chin, my jawline, my nose, the foreheads and all, and then I'm going to go into my blush. And yes, I use the Annie Beauty blush palette volume 2 because I'm a pink girly. I mean, I love those of you that got the volume 1, but I'm sorry, I'm not getting it. Like the volume 2 is like a package because it still has the orange, and then it still has reds, and it still like has all my favorite colors. So no, I'm a volume 2 girly. And yes, I did go in with a lot of blush because I was still going to go over the face with a lot of products anyway. So yeah. Let's talk about blush balance. I like to apply about blush in the nose area and also in the forehead, which is balancing out the color. In as much as you're adding color to the face and want, I just like to use the leftover of the blush in the brush and go over it around the forehead and the nose area and just create it. And then now it's time to apply the powder all over the face. Now, one thing I do with powder is I use it as a corrector. Yes, I do apply it everywhere, especially when somebody has oily skin. It is very good to go in with powder to help hold that oil. Like my theory always says, less foundation, more powder for people that have oily skin, and more foundation, less powder for people that have a very dry skin. That's always my theory. So what I do with powder in this sense is I use it to correct. Like you see all those places that the colors are not balanced. Maybe there's like a friction in the foundation, like it's just not balanced. Powder is my best bet. Foundation powder is my best bet. So I don't just go with your skin tone. I go with a good powder that can correct out whatever it is I am seeing in the face as irregularities in color. After applying all that powdered products, the next thing I like to do is to use my setting spray to melt all the powders into the foundation and into the skin to give that seamlessness. That's why us as Nigerians, we can get away with playing with a lot of powder products as long as you use a dewy setting spray. One thing I would recommend when you're applying makeup in layers in between the faces, do not use a mattifying setting spray to apply makeup setting spray on layers. Always use something more on the dewy side so it's going to melt away the product rather than mattify it. I feel like that should come at the end if you want your makeup to be matte, but never in between the makeup. Even if you have an oily face, I do recommend just using a mattifying product, a dewy product rather than a mattifying product during this process. The next thing I do is bake my face. I first of all pick a brush that's a tiny back end, and any crease that must have occurred during the process of she looking down and all that's around under the eyes. I um take the brush and I clean out those creases, and then I use a beauty blender to balance them out, and then I bake it. While baking, this one step determines how smooth your finish is going to be at the end of the day. One thing you do not want to do is you don't want to apply baking powder or should I say setting powder anywhere and not clean out the edges. By cleaning out the edges, I mean when you apply your setting powder at a particular place, what you want to do immediately, is you want to clean out any excess powder that is touching somewhere you do not want it to stay. And also, if there is a line, you want to clean that line out immediately. For instance, if you look underneath, you're seeing the line that certain powder is creating underneath. I do not need that line. You want to brush that off immediately, else it's going to sit that way. You're going to have your setting powder looking like that even when you finish. That's where you see a professional or someone done with their makeup, and yet there is like this line at the edge of the eyes because didn't blend the setting powder as they continued. So the goal for me when I'm doing my makeup is I blend like every step of the way as I go. One thing I don't particularly do when I'm applying shimmery eyeshadow is I do not apply eyeshadow base on the eyes. I just go ahead, because as you can look at, if you look at the eyes, you're going to see all the residues of all the setting sprays I've been spraying. They're all sitting there right in our eyes. So I just use that as my base, and I go in with my transition color, and then I just go in with my shimmery shade. It's way better for me to work that way than applying an eyeshadow primer. And then when I'm doing something more mattifying, that's when I actually introduce an eyeshadow primer to the eyes. Even if I'm doing a glitter, I don't introduce an eyeshadow primer because I find out that it's just more like layering products. Now the client might leave you flawless, but during the day you find out that the center is going to actually start separating because the eyeshadow primer is sometimes too thick. So even if you're going to apply an eyeshadow primer, I would prefer you go with a very light layer of eyeshadow primer, not like just packing eyeshadow primer into the eyes. Now, if you're doing a cut crease, I understand you're cutting the crease, you need something to cut the crease. Yes, I certainly know that not every eyeshadow is going to apply this vibrant when you don't have a primer, and this is where my trick comes in. I just set and spray on the brush before applying it on the the shimmery shade, before applying it on the eyes. The setting spray serves as, should I say, a color definer, because when I apply the setting spray, it is wet. So because it is wet, when I try to like take it from the palette, it just applies the pigment better and gives me the full on of the pigment. So no, there is no eyeshadow primer on this eye. The only thing that makes this pigment this vibrant, it is the setting spray that I applied on the brush. And I'm sure in 2026, one common knowledge is the fact that eyeshadow is a back and forth process. If you're not comfortable with the transitioning, you just go over and over again, especially when you're not trying to create a cut crease. We're not trying to create a line. So you just go over and over again till you get the satisfactory of the depth at the side, the transition color in between. Like, it's just a back and forth process at this point. I won't particularly be taking my brow classes, but if there's one thing I will leave you it's with, I remember somebody arguing with me once that my brows are concealed. And yes, I do conceal brows when I do not, maybe when I make a mistake when I was like trying to draw the strokes and something, obviously it's brows sometimes, but should I say 9 out of 10 times I don't conceal my brows, and this is what I do instead. I use either an eyeshadow color that is brighter, that's going to serve like an highlighter, which is going to make the brow look concealed when I'm done, or I use a powder shade. For this particular look, I did use the eyeshadow because I had a good shade that worked and blend the transition color into the eyeshadow and the brows. So I just used that shade to work on the brow bone to highlight it before drawing my brows. And so when I'm done, it's going to look like, oh yeah, there's definitely concealer in it. But in reality, I do not conceal my brows like 9 out of 10 times. An important thing not to skip is how to take out your setting powder. Now, traditionally we dust it off, but since makeup is always going to be an evolution, well, we stopped doing that. There was a time we sprayed on it a lot to melt it, but now I just stopped doing that. What I just do when I'm trying to melt off my setting powder is I just spray on the beauty blender and then just melt it with what I'm doing right now that you can visibly see. That's how I melt it off. And then while that spray is not completely dry, that's when I go in with my press powder to work on areas that are not even. So I make use of the dewiness of the spray. So like I said before, you don't really want to do things like this with mattifying spray. You want to do it with dewy setting sprays. So when my spray is not completely dry, I just use that as an opportunity to go with my pressed powder, and I'm using the Charlotte Tilbury pressed powder for this. And I did go in with the MAC for bronzing as because I left the under eye, should I say 30% dry and dewy before I went in with the pressed powder. See, the powder's function actually came out, so it's the pigment just like layered perfectly onto the under eyes to give it that bright finish, which like works perfectly for the type of look I'm trying to create. I know how difficult it can be to try and put eyeshadow under the eyes. So there is a trick that I use that works every time for me is when I place the brush on the product, I turn the brush upside down and then I apply it. That way it helps me control where the eyeshadow ends and where it begins. And then for my lashes, what I always do is I do not apply mascara on falsies. These are not strip lashes, these are extensions. Especially on extensions, I do not apply mascara. Even on falsies, I don't. If you have them on before the makeup, what I do is I just take my wipes and I clean them out to make sure that they're clean before I go in with my eyeliner. And then for our lips, I did go in with a brown eyeliner, a brown lip liner to a brown lipstick actually, with a brush to outline the lips first before I went in to finish the rest of the face and then went back into the lips. And there's another trick that I do that has changed how my overall look comes out at the end is I always apply all my powdered products before I do my eyeliner. That way the eyeliner stays crisp and black and I don't need to go over it again when I'm trying to do anything else. I'm sure we all know how it feels like when you've already applied your eyeliner and then your powder just gets in your eyeliner and then you check the camera and it has like this white cast all over. So now you have to go back in with your eyeliner again, which is like double the layer. So I just, instead of doing that consistently, I just scrammed it and just went straight into all my powdered products. Everything that has to be powder has to go on the face before my eyeliners get applied. And then one thing I did, the reason why my eyeliner came much later but after my lips is because I went back to do my lips because I was waiting for my eyeliner. I don't like waiting for things. If I have to wait for things, I'll have to substitute it to the next thing. Then I did my eyeliner after lining the lips. For eyeliner application, you want to apply eyeliner directly in between the line in between the eye, the lashes and your eyes. That way it helps you hide, especially if it's strip, it helps you hide that strip line. That's why it's like very important to apply a black liner above. And then I wanted to create like a slight wing moment at the face of the makeup, so I did that. I did a bit of highlight moment to spice up the look with purple because I actually absolutely loved it, honestly, at this point. And of course, as a Nigerian girl, I'm sorry, but like, I don't know how to do makeup and not apply black eyeliner under the eyes. Maybe I will learn. Maybe one day will come when I stop loving it. But right now, I'm still hooked, babes. I'm still hooked. And then for the lips, we went in with the pinkish nude. Just something subtle that doesn't take away from her beauty. That's the entire aim of this makeup, remember from the start. We're trying to maintain her features by just making her look cute and not taking away from her beauty naturally, because no, we're not overpainting her. Because she's already beautiful. Like, I mean, we don't need makeup to change us, we need makeup to enhance what we already are. So that's the upper school. You've watched this video this far and you still haven't subscribed or turned on post notification on my channel yet, what are you waiting for? Like I said before, I am going to be way more consistent, and yes, I went in with more blush. We can never have too much blush. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know this looks like a lot, but it wasn't really a lot. Honestly, when I finished, where did all this blush go? Well, that's one thing. Blush actually disappears from the face faster than every other process in the makeup, actually. So yeah, I was blush blind. Now that I look at this video, I feel like I was slightly blush blind, but it wasn't looking this bad. It wasn't looking this intense when I finished the makeup. And then we went in with Miss Mystic Chic Glaze. One thing I can always trust the Alba for is to melt in all that work into the skin completely, making the skin feel like skin. That's why I feel like I can't skip this. I can't skip the Alba being the finishing spray in a makeup, because it will just melt everything back into the skin and give you your skin. You can literally, at this point, if your makeup is not well laid, if your foundation, everything is not well laid, I promise you, you will see your skin. That's one thing the elbow is going to do. It's going to melt everything out of your face. Like, it's going to drink it all up. And that gives like this seamless finish when you're done completely, because you're like, okay, is this a skin? Is this makeup? That's why the finishing is always going to look different from the entire process, because that break in between the alba and when the alba actually settles in, magical for me. And one tip that's going to make your lip last way longer than regular just applying gloss is I use a mattifying lipstick first and let that dry down before going in with my gloss. That way, the lipstick underneath is matte, so it's going to take more time for the gloss to run into it and ruin the lips, so it doesn't get ruined as fast as just applying a regular lipstick that is not matte and gloss on top of it. That one, it runs even before the makeup is running. So I try to use the gloss to blend out any part of the lips, and then of course I go in with my highlighter. I use the Sobro loose highlighter here, and then that's it. That's my beautiful glam for the day. Hope you learned something from this video, and if you did, do not forget to click the subscribe button. Like I promised, I'll be more consistent this year. So yes, drop your questions and I will answer them either in a short video or in a long video if it takes that much.